Hey guys, welcome back to another session of the Internet Security Academy with the new format with me in front of the camera. I hope you liked the first video about the VPN side-to-side tunnel and a little bit of a change to how we are doing this now. Today I want to talk about the Microsoft AZ-700 certification, because I just recently did this kind of certification. I thought it might be interesting also for you guys to hear my opinion about the certification and how to approach it, some tips, recommendations, who should do it, and yeah, so I want to give it a shot today. You might see or feel a little bit more network focused content on the YouTube channel in the next, let's say, weeks of videos, as I'm also trying to incorporate a little more of my networking background instead of just doing pretty much a lecture about IT security. I hope you like that, and feel free to comment in my video what you think about that. So the AZ-700 is pretty much the exam learning path to become the Azure Network Engineer. And it is an intermediate exam, so it is somewhere between the fundamental, maybe like the AZ-900, which teaches you the fundamentals of Azure in general, and like those specialist or architect certifications or exams, like for example the AZ-100, which is the security architect. So it's somewhere in between. It's an intermediate. As I said, it doesn't have a basic exam, so you start right off with the AZ-700 if you want to go the networking path in Azure, and it will teach you the Azure networking fundamentals, and also a little more, let's say, details about load balancing, DNS, virtual networks, application gateways, express routes, and a few other things. So it is a fairly straightforward experience if you already have network experience, because you are not going to learn a lot new technically. So you will learn something new about Azure networking, VNets, VNet peering, and those things, and some requirements and limitations you have. But if they talk about load balancing and how to use DNS for traffic steering globally, that's new concepts. That's nothing new. So if you already have a lot of networking experience, you will find it fairly easy to go through the learning path, straightforward. And you can, how do I phrase that? Theoretically, you can also demonstrate a lot of the functionality in the labs, because the learning path of Azure at learn.microsoft.com has labs in it to pretty much every of the theoretical sessions, I would say, where you pretty much go ahead and configure a firewall, where you configure VNet peering, where you configure application gateway. But for me, those labs didn't work. Well, the first one or two worked, but everything which included to create a virtual machine on Azure did not work. But I will get to this in a little bit. In my opinion. Another thing which I want to mention in the overview is you should have some either PowerShell scripting know-how or general scripting know-how. So I have no clue about PowerShell, but I did a lot of PHP scripting back in the day. I started to pick up Python a little bit recently. So I do understand some programming fundamentals, and you will need at least a little bit for this certification, because it just does not only teach you on how to do it on the graphical user interface at Azure, but it will also tell you on how to script something via PowerShell. And the good thing, the last thing I want to mention about the overview is you can get a free Azure account, which you can then use to do the labs. So just sign up at, I actually don't know the link. It's probably azure.microsoft.com. I would try to put it down in the link in the video description. But yeah, go ahead and create a free account, and you can just pretty much do the labs on your own without having to pay anything. As I told you, I also want to give you my personal opinion about this kind of certification. And I'm in my 10th year of professional work experience, and I mainly spend time in networking. Therefore, the technical stuff, as I already said, was nothing new for me. I've worked a lot on DNS in the past. I did some basic stuff on load balancing and application gateways, but I personally had no Azure experience at all. So I've seen the Azure dashboard maybe twice or 3 times in my life, but I've never clicked anything there. So completely new to Azure for me. And the focus of the exam is not only the technical solution on, okay, here's the problem, how would you solve it? Or given the load balancing, what is something you should do next? No, they also ask you to find the most cost-efficient solution for a situation, which is not necessarily bad, don't get me wrong here. But in my eyes, it's not the job of an engineer to find the most cost-efficient solution for a situation, rather than for an architect. So this certification is called Azure Network Engineer. And if we would have an Azure Network Architect, I would say we definitely want to see cost efficiency and having the bigger picture at the network architect instead of the network engineer. That's pretty much the only thing where I really disagree with the approach of Microsoft. But it is only a small part. And probably maybe a few of you will even say, I don't think so, Daniel. I believe cost efficiency is also a duty of an engineer. Let me know. What is your take on this one? As I said, the lab exercises are generally good designed. You have enough labs for every content you're covering. However, those labs do not work, or just did not work for me when I did it 3 weeks ago. Actually, beginning of July. I don't know when this video is gonna be online. So beginning of July when I did it. So I only could do like 10% of the labs, and 90% of the labs were not possible because, as I said, I couldn't create virtual machines. No matter which template I choose, none of them were available in my region, and yeah, even the ones which are supposed to be for free were not available at all. And for the labs, maybe I need to close this loop a little bit. For the labs, you receive a link to a GitHub where you get some predefined scripts to roll out the lab infrastructure. So in the first labs, you will be asked to do the installation or creation of, let's say, a virtual network, a subnet, and something like that on your own. So you have to click through the Azure network, Azure dashboard, I'm sorry. But for the later labs, you pretty much get a script, a template, which you just run via PowerShell, and it will create virtual machines, virtual networks, subnets just for you. So you don't have to do anything apart from what you are learning actually in this lab. So it will set up your network infrastructure, and then you are going ahead and configure your application gateway, for example. So you only have to focus on the stuff you actually are supposed to learn in the lab. So yeah, this pretty much didn't work for me. Maybe they fix it soon, which would be good, because the labs really help or will help to understand how things are tied together at Azure. Because some questions in the exam will be, okay, you are given this situation. You're supposed to create a load balancer. Which of the 4 answers is the first step, which is the second step, which is the third step, which is the fourth step? And if you have done it once or twice to configure it, you maybe remember, okay, at first I had this wizard, then I went to this wizard, then I went to this step. So yeah, this is the reason why I believe that the labs are actually a very good idea. And I hope Microsoft fixes that soon. Moving over to my tips on how to approach the AZ-700. I've done the learning path on learn.microsoft.com, which took me about 3 days with like 3 hours per day of effort, which I did pretty much my after hours. And within this 9 hours, you usually will be done with the learning path. If you are playing around with the labs a little more, and maybe the labs actually work for you, you might need 10 or 11 hours. But if you're a good reader and you already bring some technical knowledge, it will be roughly like 9 hours to finish those. After finishing the learning path, I ordered a Udemy class, which had 3 practice exams with 38 questions, I believe, each. And I took those exams to get a feeling of how is the exam structured, how are the questions structured, and yeah, let's face it, also to maybe remember some questions by heart, which where I don't have to turn on my brain anymore. I just do it by my memory. Oh, I had this question before, so I click this and bam, next question. And I took those exams twice actually. So I went through, I think the first day I did 2 exams, the first 2, and I think for the first 2 exams I actually had a score of like 60%. Yeah, roughly 60%. You need 70% to pass. So I would have not passed with my first attempts. And I just wrote down every answer I got wrong. And I did this for all the 3 exams. And once I was done with all the 3 exams, I looked through my wrong answers and tried to understand why I answered wrong, but also, let's face it, to memorize the correct answer. After I did this, I just retook all 3 exams. And for all 3 exams, I ended up with just 1 wrong question. So something I either did not remember correctly from my previous errors, or I did a question wrong which I had previously correct. But a 98 or 97% is a good passing score, I guess. So another thing I want to recommend you around the learning path is do not skip over the notes which are talking about the different SKUs and limitations you have. For example, you will have basic and premium functions. Oh, premium is actually not the correct word. I'm trying to remember what is standard. I'm sorry. Basic and standard. You will find this for IP addresses. You will find this for load balancers. You will find it everywhere, this terminology, basic and standard. And you should make yourself familiar with the limitations. Okay, where is a basic load balancer, for example, enough? If I remember correctly, a basic load balancer cannot do outbound rules. So as soon as you want to have outbound rules, or the scenario you are given says, okay, you need to create an outbound rule, you know, okay, this basic load balancer does not work, so therefore I need to use a standard version of it, the standard SKU. This will be a good part of the exam. They will ask you, okay, this is the given situation, which of the following SKUs should you take to be cost efficient? And therefore you should understand what are the limitations of basic and where you actually need standard. What's another tip? Another tip is take the exam timely after you did the learning path. This probably holds true to most of the exams you want to take in the future, not only just for AZ-700, but the closer or the timelier you do the exam after your learning sessions, it will be easier for you to answer the questions based on your memory. I know most often I would say answering questions out of your memory because you know the correct answer, because you remember it, is not the way how to learn something, because you actually want to understand why is answer A the correct answer instead of B, C, and D. But let's face it, it isn't a certification you're doing to improve your CV, your resume, or to show someone or the world, however you want to take it, that you are capable of handling something. Just pretty much prove your knowledge or get your knowledge. So remembering questions by heart as you have learned them definitely helps you in the exam itself. And the other thing is, I strongly recommend you as well taking those practice exams. You don't have to necessarily all of them at Udemy. I paid, I think, 13 euros, which is currently pretty much the same in dollars. So it's not a lot of effort. And those practice exams will help you to understand how it's structured. Especially the AZ-700 has a section of, I think, between 6 to 10 questions of a case study. And if you've seen the structure of a case study before, you will save significantly much time when you're in the exam. Because for the case study, you will get, for me it was 8 questions on a case study, and you don't have to reread all the text. Actually, for the first question, you don't even have to read the entire case study, because the questions in the case study will tell you, okay, which requirements are to be fulfilled to answer the question. So you will be given a question on, let's say, how to connect gateway A to gateway B, while maintaining the networking security requirements. Then you just go to network security requirements tab, which lists you all the requirements they have for the networking security part. And you can skip all the other requirements they give, for example, for virtual networks, for endpoint security, for, I don't know, there were like 4 or 5 requirements they state. So make the time more efficient by understanding how the case study works. And for me, actually, I got a case study which I had in my practice exams. So I already knew what the case study is about. I already knew the requirements. Just some of the questions were new for me. But apart from that, I was in a situation which I already felt comfortable because I knew the situation. I also want to give some recommendations. So in terms of who do I recommend taking this exam and this certification path? It is a useful path for classical networking engineers who just simply want to expand their knowledge and their horizon with the approach how cloud providers are doing networking. So even though you might be just a network engineer focused on data centers or local area networks, it might be a good approach for you to do this exam if you want to expand your horizon to see something new, understand something new. And it helped me personally to understand some cloud principles, which might make a difference in future situations. I'm a consultant, so I'm sometimes get thrown into situations where I'm not necessarily prepared for. In German we call it throwing someone in the cold water. I'm actually not sure if this is a saying you would also do in English. Anyway, so this kind of knowledge might make a difference in the future. I might be considered or approached by someone and telling me, okay, we want to go for a hybrid setup. And can you tell me how we would do the virtual network peering between our Azure VNets? And I would be like, yep, I can. I actually can. I just learned it. So yeah, you never know what you need to know. So expanding the knowledge, expanding the horizon is always a very good idea to stay on top of your professional career. Apart from that is the same as other vendor certifications. If you actually work in this area, it legitimates your knowledge. And if you want to work in the area, it might be a door opener. So it is not much different of other vendor certifications, for example, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Cisco. The only thing where I want to make an exception is probably the Cisco CCNA, as the CCNA is not, I do not consider it as a vendor certification, because the CCNA will give you so much networking know-how, which apart from that is maybe only applicable to Cisco hardware and fundamentals, but it will give you a lot of networking understanding. So the CCNA is definitely not the classical vendor certification, which just gives you a higher partner status or a higher status at something. The CCNA is something which I definitely recommend for every networking engineer to either take or at least go through the learning if you are new to networking. I never received the CCNA. I did the test once, I failed, and I never tried again because I never had the need to. But maybe thinking about it now might be a good idea, maybe to do it again and also prove my knowledge in networking. Don't expect too much from the certification, right? There are thousands of people having the certification. You will not be overwhelmed by recruiters asking you, oh my God, you did the AZ-700, you're a certified Azure network engineer? Please, I have a client who definitely wants to go with you and give you $200,000 as salary, and yeah, he will roll out the red carpet for you. No. The AZ-700 is an intermediate certification, so do not expect too much from it. What is another recommendation from my end? Someone without a lot of experience around load balancing, DNS and network fundamentals will actually have it tough to run through the exam in the fashion I did. So if you are a junior or actually new to networking and most of the parts, let's say load balancing and DNS, you have never seen it before, do not compare yourself with the 9 hours I did. So for me, I just ran through the text, understood the Asia specific stuff. I didn't have to read what's round robin on DNS. I don't have to understand the geographical way of how to distribute traffic via DNS. I didn't have to understand what an A record, a pointer, a CNAME is. I already knew that. So if you're new, take your time. You'll probably need double or triple the time. And honestly, I don't believe the AZ-700 would be a good certification to do as your first in network. So if you are maybe a student still or a junior in networking, start with the CCNA and then maybe go to the AZ-700. Because the AZ-700 does not explain all those principles around DNS, for example, thoroughly enough that you will connect dots in the end. So you will have some specific know-how in, let's say, this area, but you are not going to connect those with each other and make actual knowledge out of that. Yeah, that's pretty much my recommendation. So, summary, it is a good certification. I would hope they fix the lab situation with the virtual machine creation. Maybe it's just my account. Maybe it's just me. I'm not sure. But yeah, I just hope no one else faces the same problems. And it is a good certification to get your grip on Azure networking. It's a good start maybe to go a little bit deeper into Azure, maybe a door opener to get some gigs around Azure. And yeah, for everyone else, it's just maybe expanding your horizon, understanding something new, understanding how a non-network focused company like Microsoft is taking networking compared to maybe Cisco, Palo Alto, Juniper, Fortinet. I don't know. There's just too many company names to name. I'm sorry if I didn't name your favorite vendor. So yeah, if you have the time, go ahead, do it. If you're a junior, think about doing the CCNA first and then the AZ-700. Okay, that's pretty much it for this video today. I hope you like this format again. Please also let me know in the comments if you want to change or you would like to see something changed. If you believe like the audio wasn't good, the video is not good, if you want to change the background, for example. I'm shooting this right now in the Reply office. I'm working in Chicago, and I try to make it a little bit pretty in the background, but yeah, I'm still finding my way to this new setup. So let me know what you think, and have a great day and stay safe. Bye bye.